All right, let's talk about the Big 12. Let's talk about Brett Yormark. Let's talk about where the Big 12 stands, because we've had a lot of turnover in college football. I think we all know that. And the Big 12 really has been very consistent, whereas you have all these other conferences, USC's joining the Big 10, who's going to NBC, who's going to CBS and Fox and everywhere else there's going to be Big 10 sports, right? So the Big Ten's making all these splashes, but Brett Yormark, the new commissioner of the Big 12, has been very methodical. He has been very direct. And he said some things this week that are a little bit surprising to some people, including that they're not close to expansion, but they do want to add that fourth time zone. It is called the Pacific time zone. And it had a lot of people wondering if he was talking directly about Gonzaga joining the Big 12, and if Gonzaga joining the Big 12 was the right move. Does Gonzaga need the Pacific time zone? Is, in fact, instead of being rock solid with a new TV deal, is the Big 12 looking to solidify their position, and are they in a position of weakness? I don't believe that is the case, but it is a little surprising that the Big 12 has not made a splash in Big 12 expansion yet, that Gonzaga is not a member of the Big 12, that you don't have an agreement in place to get the Arizona schools, Colorado and Utah, into the Big 12. Jake, in your opinion, do you feel like the Big 12 is on solid footing?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I think they're on solid footing, but I'm also a big believer that you always have to compete as a football player, as a basketball player, as a conference leader. You always have to compete for the best brands to be in your conference, and I think that brands like Gonzaga are a power brand, even if it is just basketball. And I think this is what's really fascinating about the whole situation, because we all know that football is the cash cow. We all know that that's what brings in the money, and then basketball obviously is second. So Gonzaga, obviously being a basketball-only school, brings an interesting dynamic into a powerhouse basketball conference. But in that same breath, I think that's why Gonzaga is such an attractive school for the Big 12, because you're already a powerhouse basketball conference. You want the fourth time zone, right? You want the West Coast. Why wouldn't you just add a powerhouse program like that? So to me, it's really interesting. It makes sense to me why you'd want to add that. But also it makes sense to me why there would be maybe just some challenges around only doing basketball and how that kind of plays into the rest of the schools. Because Yormark has talked a lot about, both in his recent comments that we're talking about today, but over the course of the last several months, that whoever they add needs to be in alignment with the rest of the schools, that he feels like they have really good synergy and that everyone's kind of on the same page and pulling the same direction, if you will. So it'll be interesting to me to see who do you add and how does that money distribution, when you do add that fourth time zone, work out if it is a basketball only school. That to me is an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I'm not so concerned about that, but look at these comments by Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark, and I think they're very interesting in that you have a situation here where you say, he wants the fourth time zone, a program that has national recognition. I think Gonzaga fits that.
Yep.
One that competes at the highest level in basketball and football. Gonzaga doesn't have that. Stands for the right things, is a good cultural fit, because our alignment right now and the like-mindedness of all of our member institutions is fantastic. It's never been better.
Right.
It's never been better. I don't know. Is that a comment that says you are not going to, that you're not going to add Gonzaga because they don't play football? I find that hard to believe for the best basketball conference in America,
right,
that you would want to add Gonzaga. Balanced or unbalanced, how do you say no to Gonzaga? I don't think that you do. But what I also think you have here is you have a situation with Brett Yormark where he knows exactly who he is, where he is, and what they are in the Big 12. And I think when you look at the Big 12, I don't think there's any doubt that, yeah, I think there is some questions about their viability in the long term. I'm not comparing them to the Pac-12 in any way, shape, or form. I am talking specifically only about the Big 12. It would have been nice to get a larger TV deal. I think they did the exact right thing by getting out early, working with their current TV partners to strike a new deal. But I also think that you're waiting on bated breath to see exactly what the Pac-12 conference does with their distribution deal. Because if they wind up in a stream-only situation, I actually think that's better for the Big 12. If the Pac-12 ends up on Amazon where their games are only streamed, they're not on ESPN and Fox, like, I think that would be a much better situation for the Big 12, because I think where we are in this world, I don't think all of us are ready to only watch Pac-12 football on Amazon Prime. I just don't think that's where we are as consumers at the moment.
Right.
I think it's an important component in a deal. And if, let's say, the Big 12 were to add a streaming component, which doesn't seem likely because there are no third-tier rights available, okay, I could see that. If the Pac-12 adds ESPN, Fox, and then adds a streaming package with Amazon, okay, now the Big 12's, should be looking at that like, uh-oh. But right now, I think there's a lot of unknowns. And I think that we rubber stamp a lot of things about the Big 12 simply because they have a new TV deal.
Right.
I wouldn't be doing that. I think Brett Yormark has work to do. I think Brett Yormark has to solidify the future of the conference by getting into the Pacific time zone, by getting into Gonzaga, by adding quality football programs, I don't know, like San Diego State, who seems to be one of the hottest properties in all of college sports. I think that's a must-add. I actually think Gonzaga basketball is a must-add. If Gonzaga winds up in a conference like the Pac-12, I think that's really damaging. If you want the Pac-12 to solidify themselves, have them add Gonzaga. That would really solidify. Have them add San Diego State. That would really solidify. And again, I will just say what's happening with the Mountain West, because whether you want to acknowledge it or not, the Mountain West is absolutely competition for the Big 12 and the Pac-12.
Right.
So I'm not saying that the Big 12 is falling apart, but what I am saying is that you have a situation where I think Gonzaga is a critical point of contention in college sports right now.
Yeah, and I think they have a lot to offer. I mean, I think, like, hear me clearly, I don't think that just because they're a basketball-only school that like hurts them or makes them some sort of like bad value add. I think they're a phenomenal value add to any conference that wants to bring them in. I think the only hurdle with that is just, hey, because you're basketball only, how does that work out revenue-wise with the rev share that goes on between all the other member institutions? Because Gonzaga's revenue is obviously going to be, well, all due respect, because you're basketball only, your revenue is obviously going to be smaller than Oklahoma State or than Kansas or Kansas State or any of these schools that have both. So it's not that Gonzaga is some bad school. It's just how do you work that out? So yeah, if I'm Brett Yormark and I can add Gonzaga, I'm definitely figuring it out 100%, like no doubt about it. And I agree, Gonzaga very much is a brand or a school that's sort of like sitting here on this pedestal, and it's like, who's going to add them? And whoever adds them is going to get a huge win through that, because you notice every single year, Gonzaga has a way of being in the national headlines for basketball, whether it was when Chet was there or, the talent they have now. Like, even when they're not playing for national championships, they're front and center. And by them being front and center, if they're in your conference, you're front and center. And that's what really, I think, matters to these conferences when football essentially ends in December and you need that extra kick through April.
Yeah, and I think that's why you have a situation where Gonzaga is so critical, and you have a situation where you have the best, by far, basketball conference in the country in the Big 12. And please do not argue that the Pac-12 or the Big 10 or the ACC, get out of here.
Yeah.
The Big 12 is the best basketball conference in the country.
Yeah.
If you add Gonzaga to that, and again, to expansion point, if you add Arizona basketball to that,
right,
if you add the Running Utes to that, and you add Gonzaga to that, you're absolutely in a rock solid position. And I just feel like Brett Yormark now, you're in this situation where you feel like it's been awfully quiet.
Mm-hmm.
It's been awfully quiet. And you're almost waiting for, think about how mornings work in this country. Like, you're waiting for the sun to rise and all the noise of the traffic to come in. That's what I'm waiting for with the Big 12. It's been very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's done a really good job to date. But now it's time to swing for the fences, because with this UC Board of Regents, announcement or decision or whatever how we're calling this with UCLA, I don't know what you refer to it as.
Yeah.
But this decision that's coming down from the UC Board of Regents is a big one. And I think it has a massive impact on the future and the fate of the Big 12. Because if UCLA is truly allowed to leave, and I don't care what their rev split with Cal is going to be, but if UCLA is clearly, is allowed to leave, I think it clearly, begins another phase of expansion in college football.
Yes.
Because I think it makes the Pac-12 desperate. And if the Pac-12 is desperate, they're going to act, which forces the Big 12 to act. I think this UC Board of Regents UCLA decision next week, man, I cannot state it succinctly enough that this is a massive moment in time.
Because it's one thing for USC, because USC is a private institution, right? Like, it's one thing for USC to leave and do their thing. Like, that's fine, whatever. But for a public institution in UCLA to leave the way they left, the manner with which they left, that's a big deal. And I do agree that maybe everyone's waiting on this decision and everyone is like, all right, we know what our contingency plan is. We know what we're going to do if this happens or if that happens. Now we just got to wait for this to happen. Maybe it is. And I don't know, like, I don't view it as, some impending doom, if you will. I think that it's more of just it is.
What do you mean? When you say you don't view it as impending
I don't,
doom?
for UCLA, one way or the other, you're going to survive. You're going to find a way. I think for UCLA, it's more of a thing where it's like, hey, if we can get to the Big Ten, now we can start to thrive a little bit. Now we can start to kind of make some money and, like, be in a better position and get Ohio State in here and get, we can get some better brands.
I tend to differ with that. I think the biggest problem for UCLA has always been funding of the football program. I think that you went out and hired Chip Kelly, and yet you still haven't found a solution to get out of the Rose Bowl week in and week out. And I don't think people understand that the Rose Bowl is a big problem for UCLA. Like, it's a historic building one day a year, right? I mean, that's it for the Rose Bowl. It's a historic building. But if you're UCLA, you can't fill a 100,000-seat stadium. You can't. It's embarrassing most weeks that joint's three-quarter empty. You've got to get an on-campus stadium, and I know they're working on it. I know they're trying, but they don't have the money to do that. And they also don't have the booster donor money that is required because people are not fired up about UCLA football.
Facts.
Now, if you put UCLA football in the Big Ten, my guess is you're going to have an on-campus or close-to-campus stadium. And I think it makes a huge deal. And I also think that for UCLA, obviously they're going to survive. UCLA's not going anywhere. My bigger question is, does the Pac-12 survive? Because I think if UCLA leaves the Pac-12, I think it's an awfully difficult pill to swallow. That you would have UCLA, USC, nobody in Southern California, which again is why, and I know they're in Spokane, but Gonzaga becomes incredibly important for the Pac-12, which is why it's incredibly important for the Big 12, in my opinion. I just think when you look at this stuff, and you look at how these things go on, it begs the question of, is the Big 12 on solid footing? And I want to say yes, but I just am not there yet. I'm not there yet. And I think if UCLA leaves the Pac-12, I do believe it's a death knell. Because that means Amazon, ESPN, Fox, and really take Fox out of it because Fox has told the Pac-12 they're not in the hunt to be a Tier 1 partner. You look at ESPN and you look at Amazon. What are you paying for if UCLA is not there? We got Gonzaga basketball. Okay, well, that's a conversation we can have. I think Gonzaga is a huge, huge tipping point here. I think San Diego State's a huge tipping point here because I don't think San Diego State is in a hurry to leave the conference right now. I don't. I actually think with a new commissioner that seems really savvy, smart, sharp, I think the Mountain West is a real player here. And if the Mountain West is serious after Craig Thompson resigns and retires at the end of the month here, they're going to get aggressive and grow their footprint. I think there's no doubt about that. People I've talked to in the TV industry have said repeatedly, watch out, Mountain West, watch out for the Mountain West. Hey, if the Pac-12 melts down, watch out for schools like Oregon State and Washington State. Watch out for schools like Gonzaga. If they lose UCLA, man, I just think it's going to be the Wild West, and I think there's going to be a huge firefight for these schools.
Yeah.
Now, if you are Oregon and Washington, I think you probably end up in the Big Ten. But if you are Oregon State and Washington State, I think the Big 12 and the Mountain West are two very interesting partners. I truly do. I think the Big 12 clearly has more to offer than the Mountain West does. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But if you are the Mountain West, I think you have to get aggressive, and I think you have to ask Alabama. You have to ask Notre Dame. You've got to go and swing for the fences because somebody might actually say yes. And you only need one Washington State, one Oregon State. You only need, if you're the Mountain West, I don't think you're going to be able to pull an Arizona or an Arizona State. But why wouldn't you ask?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think some people are afraid to just ask. That's been a mantra on this show for a while. When we're talking about Danny Ainge, how do you not make the call on certain guys? How do you not make the call on Kevin Durant? Yeah, exactly. If you're Yormark, how are you not looking at some of these schools? And he is. I have no doubt. Obviously, you're projecting forward and you're talking to people. And as you said, it's been quiet, which always means in college football that things are happening that the public doesn't know are happening. And, you have to just understand that that's how it works in college football. They're putting plans together and they're prepared. And whatever happens with UCLA next week, they're going to be able to react. And I think that, hopefully they're going to be aggressive because I think they're in a position to be aggressive. And it's always a big shame when you have resources and ability and you're able to go out and get, different programs to add to your conference and you're, just not doing it. That's a shame in my opinion. So I hope that they are aggressive and that they do, handle business. Because if they do get Gonzaga and let's say the Pac-12 melts down and you're able to add the Arizona schools and you do all that, you're going to be a power conference. There's just no way around it. And if you're the Mountain West, obviously, you're just looking for a seat at the table. You're just looking for, hey, we want to add some major programs and hopefully become a P5. That's what you're trying to do. So to me, it is a very interesting time. But to answer the question directly, I do think the Big 12 is on relatively solid footing, but I also think that footing can be pulled out from under them, relatively quickly, depending on how they behave and how they go about it.
Yeah, I think you cannot overemphasize how important this UCLA decision is, and in my opinion, when that decision comes down midweek, I think it's like a domino. You're tipping the first domino here, and I have to believe that Brett Yormark, the commissioner of the Big 12, has a plan. And I see everybody saying it's ridiculous that Gonzaga would join the Mountain West and the Mountain West is a joke. Okay, go ahead and believe that. What I'm telling you is Gonzaga has a very high brand right now, but it doesn't join the Big Ten. It's not going to the ACC. What sense does that make? Gonzaga's a perfect fit. An absolutely perfect fit in the Big 12. They're really essentially major sports are basketball only. It's Spokane, which I think gives you a much better footprint. And I think that if you're Gonzaga, why do you not want to compete at the top of the basketball world? Because you already are. You already are. And I think it would be hard, in my opinion, if UCLA leaves the Pac-12. I don't believe that the WCC exists. I don't believe that Gonzaga can sit tight. I really don't. And again, if the WCC melts down, there's a lot of good programs in there that I think have a lot of value. And if you are the Mountain West, if you are the Pac-12, I think you have to look at basketball onlys. I do. I think they have real value. There is no bigger prize in college basketball than Gonzaga right now. And I believe that Brett Yormark knows that. And I think that if you're Brett Yormark, my only question is, should you be more aggressive in expansion? And I know factually that he has talked to just about every member of the Pac-12. Every member of the Pac-12 has heard from Brett Yormark.
Well, and again, they're already one of the most aggressive in expansion. Keep that in mind. Obviously, you're adding, 4 schools here, and I think that's great. That's exactly what you should be doing. And, and obviously, later in the show here in a few minutes, we're going to have the conversation about what Kelly Papinga and Jay Hill said about the Big 12 and that whole process. So like, obviously they're adding schools and they are being aggressive, but at the same time, it's very rare in college athletics that you get an opportunity to kind of put the dagger in another conference that competes with you, because the Pac-12 undoubtedly competes with the Big 12 right now. There's just no question about it. And to me, I think if UCLA leaves and then you can add, the Gonzagas or maybe even a San Diego State, and you can kind of take some options away from the Pac-12, that's really going to be impactful, because it's not really even about stealing Pac-12 teams at this moment. It's just about kind of pigeonholing the Pac-12 and basically saying, hey, you have no way out here. Like, you're going to melt down, and we're going to absorb those teams and that revenue and that branding, and that's going to boost our conference. So,
College football talk on the Monty Show is always presented by our good friends at Barbecue Pit Stop, bbqpitstop.com. Holiday gift giving. Why would you go anywhere but Barbecue Pit Stop? And again, one of the things they do is they have these flavor packs. They have these seasoning packs, these packs of rubs that are, 2 in a box. And when you go to Barbecue Pit Stop, we always tell you, you're dealing with local owners. They're entrepreneurs. They're just all really savvy business guys. So one of the things they're doing is they're selling gift packs to benefit a local resident. It's a great program. Get online, bbqpitstop.com. Stop by any of their 5 Utah locations, from Logan, Layton, Murray, which is, of course, our Salt Lake location in Murray, right across from the mall there. You also have Lehigh and St. George. Hello to everybody in St. George. We've had a massive week of viewership in St. George this week. Good to see everybody in Southern Utah. And go shop at Barbecue Pit Stop, bbqpitstop.com. They're just really good guys. And again, when you go to Barbecue Pit Stop, and I know I say this every day, you're probably tired of it, but check the box. It's the best equipment. You know that already. You're getting Traeger, Big Green Egg, Yoder, Camp Chef. I'll keep talking about their pizza ovens, even though isn't that what a Traeger Ironwood 885 is, a pizza oven, really? I mean, you can make brisket on it, but it's a pizza oven. They make amazing pizza. Wings, brisket, chops, steaks, you name it, they do it. Great skewers. Mrs. Monty and her broken arm loves some skewers on the smoker. Fish, I absolutely agree. Now, I'm a cod guy, not a salmon guy.
Yeah, cod.
Give me that white, tender, flaky fish.
Panko.
I love it. But you're getting the best equipment. But the know-how is what you're investing in. When you buy a smoker, when you buy the pellets, they sell you the pellets. And the other thing I would say is smoking is not complicated. I was talking to Jesse yesterday on Instagram DM.
Vanish mode.
And he was asking me, hey, I don't think I could learn to run a smoker. And I said to him, what do you mean learn? It's plug it in, turn it on, and you're smoking.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
I think there's this belief that running a smoker is like geometry or algebra.
Well, remember when we bought our smoker, we were a little intimidated, right?
I would agree.
We were like, man, how does a smoker even work? And the thing is to me, it's even easier than a traditional charcoal grill. Literally, like he just said, plug it in. Take the bag of pellets that they're going to give you. I'd recommend the competition mix, but there's a number of cherries, bomb. There's a number of different blends. All you got to do is plug the damn thing in, pour the pellets in the box, turn it on, turn up to the temp you want, and you're good to go. That's it.
There's even Wi-Fi technology now, which means on the Traeger smoker, you download the Traeger app, you connect it via Bluetooth, your phone and the smoker.
I'm for real.
And it'll send you a notification. Ours is called the Monty Show Traeger. The Monty Show Traeger is up to temperature. The preheating cycle is done.
I'm for real.
Hey, the cool down is done, because when you turn off the Traeger, it's going to go through a cool down mode. It is done. Shutdown is complete. The technology is amazing. All you have to do is get your chosen item, your meat. Put your meat on the smoker, boy. All you have to do is put your wings, your pizza, your brisket on the smoker, and it's good to go. You running a smoker is so easy.
So easy.
Do it at Barbecue Pit Stop, bbqpitstop.com to shop online for the holiday season. Oh, by the way, make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. Let's get some of your comments in here. Real quick, though, I want to talk about one other thing that Brett Yormark said the other day that I thought was amazing. This is from Ross Dellinger at Sports Illustrated, who I follow on Twitter. If you don't, you're missing out. He is an amazing college football guy. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark, quote, I was put off candidly by the Rose Bowl. I don't believe anyone putting themselves ahead of the sport. End quote, Brett Yormark. That's freaking fantastic. Mainly because we said that exact same thing last week on the show when we were talking about the Rose Bowl holding up early expansion of the college football playoff because we want to be special.
Yeah.
To which we said, nah, bro. I think the Rose Bowl is one of those things that everybody's like, oh, yeah, it's the granddaddy. What do you mean?
You're the pretentious kid in the room. That's the problem.
Is it because see, growing up, the Rose Bowl wasn't it for me. Like there had to be a huge matchup. I was more about like the Orange Bowl. The Fiesta Bowl was a bigger bowl for me than the Rose Bowl. Like it's a great tradition. But with all due respect to Utah, is Utah and Penn State lighting anybody's hair on fire? If you're not a Nittany Lion or a Ute fan,
With all due respect.
If you're not a Ute fan, are you really excited about Penn State and Utah?
No.
You're not. In my mind, you're looking at but again, BYU's going to the New Mexico Bowl. My point is, I think there are very few bowls, and I do believe that the college football playoff has devalued the Rose Bowl. And I understand why the Rose Bowl wanted what it wanted, but I agree 100% with good old Bretty Yormark. Bretty with Brett Yormark, who said, yeah, they put themselves in front of everybody else. I agree with that.
Yep.
I agree. I think the Rose Bowl
has done that. The Pac-12 has done that too.
Well, the Pac-12's always done that.
But they're kind of one and the same because obviously the Rose Bowl exists in Pac-12 land, and to me it's just disappointing. Like and that's why I say like Brett Yormark is a weapon. There's no doubt about it. The guy understands how to do business and he understands marketing. Like there's just no doubt about it. And so to me, don't be surprised when there's another splash move made after the UCLA thing. Like, don't be surprised about that.
Yep, I agree. Ken Williams says, I'll be in Ogden. Is there a barbecue pit stop close to there? Yeah. Close to there. Yes, in fact, there is in Layton. Layton is, I would think Layton's the closest store to Ogden. Absolutely. Right by Hill Air Force Base there. So, yeah, absolutely. Let's get some of your comments in here. Tanner Plummer, the first one in.
Well. We're on the train a little early today, are we, bud?
Wow. Tanner says, is the Big 12 in trouble? I don't know. Are they?
Hey, guys.
Well, thanks for your contribution. M. Alvarez. Oh, yeah. First like of the day. Morning, fellas. Yeah, by the way, you guys, listen. Am I going to have to bribe you? What am I going to have to do? Come on now. We need 200 likes on the show today.
There's already been 231 views on the show.
There's 114 people. 114 people watching the show right now.
Come on.
There are only 13 of you who have liked it.
Come on.
If the remaining 100 of you just hit the like button,
it's that easy.
We're good to go.
Yeah.
That's all we're asking for. If you are watching the show right now, give us a thumbs up, hit the like button. It helps the channel grow immensely. We really appreciate it. If you guys continue to subscribe to the show, that really helps us grow, obviously. Because I got to tell you, looking at our numbers, we picked up 47 likes or 47 subs yesterday.
Damn.
We're at 8333. So we had quite a good day on the subscriber count yesterday. So yeah, I'm telling you, rock and roll. Hit that like button. I see we're up to 28 now. We doubled our like count. Please consider hitting the like button. But M. Alvarez, good to see you. Neville93, it's Friday. Let's get it. Amen to that. Let's see. Maury Alvarez says, I think Yormark is here to take names. I think he
100%.
is. I think he is.
Yeah.
I don't think, and don't get me wrong, I don't believe that the Big 12 is failing, or I think it's time to get aggressive because
Gonzaga.
I think Gonzaga. I think that's getting aggressive.
Yeah.
My biggest fear is you're sitting here waiting for UCLA to go to the Big Ten or not go to the Big Ten. And I think if they go to the Big Ten, I think you're behind the curve now.
Well, I think I would agree with that, and that's why I say like this whole concept of hey, it's being quiet. It's fascinating to me because when it's quiet, things are happening usually in college football, and so to me, it's like okay, through this quiet period, through sort of this waiting period where we've had to wait, and we're getting this decision next week.
Yep.
Has Brett Yormark been working behind the scenes, which I'm pretty confident he has, but has he been working behind the scenes to set up a deal with the Zags or with, whoever, right? Like another entity to bring them into the conference. Because again, don't forget, right? We talk every day on this show about BYU going to the Big 12. There's 3 other schools going with them. So it's not like the Big 12 isn't doing anything, but that's not really the conversation. The conversation is the Big 12 is uniquely positioned to go out and get the Zags or San Diego State or, some of these other brands. So if UCLA leaves with USC and the Pac-10 at that point melts down, the Big 12 is going to be front and center, and the Mountain West is going to clean up behind them. And
Totally
that's
agree.
what we're looking for.
Yep, totally agree. No doubt about it. Let's see. Kenai Johnson says, top of the morning, what's up? Jizzy announces his presence
Jizzy!
by saying Jizzy in the house. Don't.
That's right, T.
It stains the rugs.
Yeah.
Lord Radon says the expanded playoff changed everything. Who is the Big 12 going to get? Boise State. Well, it's funny you bring up Boise State.
The blue turf.
Because they're obviously, I think most people know this, they're completely renovating and expanding all of their athletic facilities. So they clearly understand what's coming. And I do think that Boise, now it's a smaller market. Obviously, Boise is the humanity in Boise is not the same as the humanity in Los Angeles. But I think Boise had a pretty strong bounce back year, especially based on where they started, right? But we'll see what happens with Boise. I'm telling you, the Mountain West is absolutely a player in what's coming next. I do. Kendall, what's up, Kendall Dean? Would Prime jump to Colorado if there wasn't plans to try and go to the Big 12? Would Prime go to the failing Pac-12? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a great question, though. I think
But Colorado's not going anywhere. Deion Sanders has proven himself to be a savvy operator. I don't think he's worried about the conference. I think he's worried about himself, which means he's worried about Colorado. Winning at Colorado is what's good for Prime. Whether that's in the Big 12, the Pac-12, your mom's backyard, winning at Colorado is what matters for Prime.
Having fun is the name of the game.
I think that's absolutely. I think it's that's where it is. Lord Radon says he went to Colorado so he can be the center of attention. Yeah, I don't know about that. If he wins, he's a savior. If he's a mess, he can say, I tried. It's Colorado. Watch what I do at FSU. Yeah, I don't think it's that simple. I think if Deion Sanders fails at Colorado, he's going to have to really struggle to get out of.
Especially with the staff that he's put together.
Yeah, I mean, that would be shocking. Also, hate to break it to you, these decisions aren't going to be made based on who is coaching where. I agree with that, Radon. I don't think there's any decision that Amazon's making. Oh, well, Deion Sanders as a coach at Colorado?
We didn't do our
Sign him up.
TV deal because we were waiting for Prime to go to Colorado.
Yeah, so Kliavkok, the liar, was saying the other day, well, one of the reasons that we waited to do a TV deal is because we knew Prime was coming. No, you didn't. Stop. Ron Nolan wants to know where Gorgonzola is. The cheese? I hope it's
Gonzaga.
In your you mean
Gonzaga.
You mean Gonzaga.
Gonzaga.
Spokane, Washington. Spokane, Washington is where it is. Wait, what? How the F is the Mountain West in serious competition with the Big 12 or the Pac-10? What do you mean? I don't know. Is that an outlandish statement?
No.
You really think the Mountain West, with a new commissioner and tons of opportunity to add to the conference, you really don't think they're a competitor? Yeah, I would disagree with that. Tim Bruckmiller, good morning, Tim. He says Gonzaga would not be basketball only. They would be a non-football member. Well, sure. But we're talking football and basketball. And Brett Yormark specifically talked about football and basketball.
Gonzaga.
So, yeah, they would be a basketball-only member. It is what it is, though. Yes, sadly, not a lot of people care about college baseball, Tim Bruckmiller. Why is it sadly? It doesn't make people money. It doesn't make
Just
the
like
money.
college hockey doesn't make anybody money.
College hockey's amazing.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Kendall Dean, I don't see how expanded playoffs save the Pac-12. If you get a crappy TV deal, Pac is dead if UCLA leaves. Totally.
Yeah, spot on.
Totally.
I mean, I think we're certainly not making the case that the expanded playoff helps them. I think if you were to try to make that case, your only leg to stand on is that maybe not maybe. I mean, they have a better opportunity to get into the college football playoff. Clearly, I mean, obviously, it's no secret that the Pac-12 had 6 teams in the top 25. Like, that's a pretty solid season. And if we're going to a 12-teamer, essentially, like you're probably 4 of those teams. You're a quarter of that playoff. So, I think that, obviously from that standpoint, it would help the Pac-12, but saving the Pac-12, I don't think there's any saving the Pac-12, because saving it has nothing to do with the college football playoff. It has everything to do with recruiting and TV deals and distribution and the bigger picture. So I completely agree with that comment.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the structure of the Mountain West, I mean, Air Force, Boise, Colorado State, Fresno State, Hawaii, Nevada,
Gonzaga,
San Diego State, obviously, Utah State, Wyoming.
Excuse me, it's Aggie Tears.
Excuse me. Thank you. I just think you have a lot of, like, UNLV is a great example of a basketball-only school. Nothing? Okay. UNLV has a football team. It was more of a joke.
That was a joke, because he said, because their football team sucks so bad that the basketball only.
See what I did? Yeah, okay. San Diego State says, Monty, what about the G5 limitation clause from Fox or ESPN? I've talked to a lot of people about this. What it essentially means is San Diego State is going to pay a significant price for a seat at the table. That's what it means. Because if San Diego State, let's say that, ESPN has said it will pay on par if you add a P5 team. So
right.
If the Big 12 adds a Pac-12 team, they're going to pay an equal share in a raise. The ESPN would pay more on par across the conference if you add a P5. If you add a G5, they're not going to pay for that. They're not going to pay on par for that. And what that means is those expenses are going to be passed on down to San Diego State, who's going to take less.
As they should.
But it's why it's a tough sell for San Diego State to leave the Mountain West, because they're in a really good spot. And with Snapdragon and all the new revenue that's coming in, a lot of people, including me, theorize that there are new revenue streams to offset that for the next 5 years.
Schemers trying to control their little world.
Because again, if you're San Diego State and you join the Big 12, in the next 5 years, are you competing for a conference championship at San Diego State? Well, you're probably not, right? You're probably not. But what are you doing? You're probably, getting more booster money. You're probably getting more donor money. You're probably getting more ad dollar, sponsorship dollar.
Raising all tides.
Yeah, you really are. So it makes financial sense to offset that loss that you are going to take. Because honestly speaking, you're probably not getting a raise in TV money, but you're getting an exponential raise in every other revenue generation.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot more sense. But to your point, I agree with you. I think it is I think it's there's not a member in the Big 12 that's going to pay San Diego State to come in.
Yeah.
So San Diego
respect.
State, if they want to join the Pac-12 or the Big 12, and maybe the Pac-12 secondarily, but if you're the Big 12 and you're Oklahoma State, are you going to pay out of your pocket to bring San Diego State in? No, of course not. So San Diego State's going to have to bite the bullet on that. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination, with UCLA and USC going to the Big Ten, there is nothing about San Diego State that's a non-starter. Nothing that's a non-starter. I think it's a huge conversation. Huey Reed, good morning. The friggin' Pac-12 was fun as hell to watch this year. Shame that SC and UCLA are dipping. It is, because I think I can make a pretty compelling argument that the Pac-12 was a better football conference than the Big 12.
100%.
And everybody's like, wow. Look, TCU. Look at what Kansas did.
Christian.
Look at what Texas Christian did.
Texas.
And hey, did you guys see Manhattan, Kansas with K-State?
Texas.
I mean, they got a lot of commoner in Manhattan, but they also play some pretty good football. Yeah, it's not football. It's football.
Football.
You got to emphasize the B on the back.
Football.
Right? So I think that I could make an argument that the Pac-12 had a better year. And with SC being fourth and, I mean, obviously with Utah and
Caleb
Oregon.
Williams winning the Heisman.
Well, yeah. And by the way, I don't know, did anybody see that Caleb Williams, by the way, Caleb Williams wins the Maxwell and the Camp. So essentially, he's the best player in college football, and he's the best all-around player in college football.
Fucking A.
Right? So UCLA had a decent rebound year. They didn't finish strong. Bo Nix be damned. Oregon had a great year.
Duck season be damned.
I think what Caleb DeBoer's doing, they had a great year. Oregon State had a great year. The conference on the whole, obviously Utah was phenomenal against SC. You would have loved to have won the Florida game. You would have loved to have won the Oregon game. God bless you. But the conference had a really good football year.
But
that's
on
an argument.
paper, financially, did you have a better year than the Big 12?
Well, no. And
That's
the
the
only
problem.
thing that matters is USC lost and TCU is in the college football playoff.
Yep.
That's
What
the only
now?
thing at the end of the
Let me
day.
tell you what now.
You brought money, but what's been the lifelong story of the flipping Pac-12? They never make the money they're supposed to make.
Yeah, because they schedule like crap and they put their teams in bad positions.
And TCU is going to make the money that most people in the Pac-12 would like to see USC making in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
That is absolutely the bottom line.
It's the truth.
And it's hard to get away from that. And it's hard to get away from salt, grime, dirt, and dust on your car this time of year, which is why you go to Quick Quack Car Wash. They always present the biggest stories in sports on the Monty Show. Love my guys at Quick Quack, and I appreciate everybody who goes and sends us pictures. We love supporting our sponsors, and it makes a big difference to us when you go to the car wash. Take a picture, tweet it at me, The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show. And I think this thing you'll see when you go to Quick Quack Car Wash is they're super friendly. They smile. You deal with human beings. You don't deal with some little box that keeps kicking out your credit card, right?
A box.
And the best part is their wash passes at Quick Quack are so affordable. I pay $21.99 a month for the best car wash. I can go one time. I can go a million times. So when it snows on Monday and it snows on Wednesday and then it's also going to snow Saturday and Sunday, I can go 10 times if I want.
Y'all feel me?
I maybe don't bring the car to the garage. I don't go anytime. Or I just go one time. It's up to me because I'm getting the best car wash in the business at Quick Quack Car Wash. By the way, right now, did you know they are still giving away free car washes? Go to Quick Quack, say, hey, the Monty Show said you guys are giving away free car washes. I want my free car wash. Go and get it, and they'll give you a free car wash. Trust me when I say mention the Monty Show, get a free car wash at Quick Quack Car Wash. I do think certainly football 50 in 5 minutes. This Baker Mayfield win last night, massive. Start getting your comments in on that right now. I think that's a huge win for Bake. I think that's a huge win for the Rams. And I don't know what you were thinking if you're the LA, Oakland, now Las Vegas Raiders. I have no idea what you were doing. No idea whatsoever. And I do think these Yormark comments are absolutely huge. So let's finish up that conversation as well. Don't forget, we'll talk Jazz basketball coming up here in 15 minutes because Rudy Gobert's back at the Viv tonight. T-Wolves and Jazz. Jazz are favored in that game. Utah Jazz are favored in that game. Any surprise by that?
No, not at all. I think the T-Wolves are not respected, and they haven't earned that respect.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Larry Pilgrim, good morning, gives us a $5 tip, says Baltimore has said San Diego State would have California Regents handcuff their academic limits if they join the Pac. Won't happen if they join the Big 12. Yeah, listen, I think there's always game playing and maneuvering. That's all this UCLA thing is. All the UCLA thing is game playing and maneuvering.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
trying to control their little world.
Again, it's this Kliavkock thing that we play all the time on the show. And George Kliavkock, the commissioner of the Pac-12, and yes, I know I'm saying his name wrong, and I will never say his name right.
Hey, you know you're saying his name wrong. Did
Hey.
you know his hey, guys.
Hey, Dick, we have all these research
Guys.
institutions.
Hey guys.
I mean, we're way better than TDS. You got to say his name right.
Gonzaga.
We're better than you.
Gonzaga.
Do you see our, But, everybody's at the beach and not the Rose Bowl. But that doesn't matter. It's the Rose Bowl.
It's the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all.
So Kliavkoff over here, this is the perfect example of the conversation that's on the screen. Well, we're going to handcuff you. We're going to damage you every way we can. Isn't that what Kliavkoff is doing? Isn't that exactly what he's doing when you listen to him talk about the millions of athletes he's talked about and not a single one has anything nice to say about USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten?
How many UCLA coaches and athletes have you spoken with to assess their thoughts on the move to the Big Ten?
I think saying hundreds would be an exaggeration. Dozens, more than 100. And I have yet to talk to anyone in the UCLA and USC community who's in favor of the move. I will say that I probably hear from folks who are not in favor, right? Not surprisingly.
So he says, Kliavkoff says, well,
right.
nobody. I haven't heard from one single frat boy who's hammered on Schlitz. Who has told me that they want UCLA to go to the Big Ten. Well, then somebody went out and asked people, hey, what do you think? Hey, UCLA student athletes.
Bonnie, please.
What do you think? Because Kliavkoff hasn't heard from a single UCLA person in athletics who wants to go to the Big Ten. Not one, and he's talked to dozens, if not hundreds.
Right.
So it turns out that was a lie.
That's fucking interesting, man.
93% of UCLA student athletes think it's important to be in the same conference as USC.
Wonder why.
This is so ridiculous that we get into these. Well, we won't give you money. We're going to handcuff you. Shut up. Like, why not do what's best for the student athlete?
Because they're not interested in that.
It's their mental health. So you really think that the mental health of student athletes traveling more, playing more games of consequence is bad for their mental health because they don't get to stay home? I don't believe the research that I see shows that. I don't believe that it shows that. I just don't. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
But I just don't believe that, in my opinion. Larry Pilgrim says San Diego State will be in P12 based on academics, period. Academics are not going to determine where schools go. They're not. And I'm so tired of the bloviated conversations around, wow, academics, research institution. Now, if you look at the size of the Petri dish here in the Pac-12, and then you look at the size of the Bunsen burner in the Big 12, the two just don't meld. Academics are never going to drive things. And everybody likes to stand on their little pedestal and say, well, we are a conference of research institutions.
Of higher learning.
And our SAT scores and our SAT-MAT, JAC, LAC, JAMOC score is much higher than any score that any Big 12 manure shoveler can come up with. Because that's what this comes down to.
Right.
That's what it always comes down to this. Get off your high horse. Get off your high horse.
Yeah.
Actually, I know this is crazy in college football.
Wait, I'm going to brace myself. Here we go. Okay.
Be focused on what's actually best for the college student athlete.
What?
Because the other thing you got to remember is if you were focused on kids in the first place, we wouldn't be having this conversation because 9 out of 10 kids that go to UCLA are not impacted by if you're in the Big Ten or not.
Look here, man.
You understand? We're talking about like a really small slice of student life at any of these universities.